There's only been a handful of NBA players that have been considered the best player in the NBA at a given time. These players are always regarded as some of the greatest of all time. However, there was another player that at one point was the best in the league, yet always seems to get left out when discussing the best players of all time. Late 70s and early 80s, after Kareem's decade-long dominant run, and before Bird and Magic took the league by storm, Moses Malone was arguably the best player in the league for a few years, yet isn't appreciated like the other all-time greats, which makes him the most underrated player of all time. Moses was drafted straight out of high school by the ABA in 1974, where he played for the Utah Stars and quickly gained a reputation for being an elite rebounder, despite just being a skinny 19-year-old. Then, 2 years later, in 1976, he joined the NBA to play for the Houston Rockets, where he would become a superstar in the league. In 1979, Moses was named the NBA MVP, averaging 25 points and 18 rebounds, but he lost in the first round of the playoffs. 2 years later though, in 1981, Moses carried the underdog Rockets to the finals. Unfortunately, they lost in 6 games to Larry Bird and the Celtics. However, Moses played well, averaging 22 points and 16 rebounds for that series. The following year, Moses was once again named the MVP, averaging 31 points and 15 rebounds, but was unable to make it past the first round again. So, at the end of the season, he was traded to the Philadelphia 76ers to play with one of the other best players in the league, Julius Erving, which meant that he finally had a partner in crime and didn't have to carry his team all by himself. That season, in 1983, he was once again named the MVP, averaging 25 points and 15 rebounds. And alongside his new teammate, Dr. J, they led the Sixers to a 65-17 record, which was the best in the league that season. In the playoffs, Moses and the Sixers were dominant, only losing one game on their way to the finals, to face the defending champs Los Angeles Lakers, with Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Shockingly, the Sixers easily beat the Lakers in 4 straight games, and Moses was named the Finals MVP, averaging 26 points and 18 rebounds, winning his first and only championship. Over the next decade, Moses would continue to be a decent player, playing for multiple teams, including the Washington Bullets and Atlanta Hawks. And he spent his last few years in the league being a veteran role player, bouncing from team to team, only averaging a couple of points per game. By the end of his 21-year career, Moses had made the most offensive rebounds in NBA history, the most free throws made until Malone broke his record, and he was the 6th leading scorer in combined NBA/ABA history with over 29,500 points. So then the question is, why isn't he remembered alongside the other greatest players of all time? Well, most likely, it's because most of the greatest players of all time were great until their last season, with only a small decline at the end, while Moses spent the latter half of his career not being that great of a player. If Moses retired 5 years earlier, maybe he would be remembered more as the MVP and champion that he was, instead of the role player that he ended his career as. I think when considering how great a player was on an all-time scale, you must look at their best years as opposed to their career start to finish. Because some players take a few years to fully come into their own, and other players, like Moses, stay in the league longer than they probably should. Therefore, all of this makes Moses Malone the most underrated player of all time, because he was the best player in the league for a few years, yet isn't appreciated the same way as the other all-time greats.